So the first question, by the way, the candidates have not received these questions, other than, if you've been watching the newspaper, that the last 3 weeks there's been some great responses to general questions. These questions are similar in nature. They're not going to come from out into the outfield, blindsided. So these are questions that have been talked about around. So don't expect any big fireworks here with being blindsided. So James, what do you believe your role will be as a city councilman in the area of improvement of the sweet home economy? And I'd like to have some specifics if you can provide that. And I'm going to pass the mic over to you and step aside.
Thank you. Well, I don't really know where to start. This is kind of a big topic. One of the things as a councilman, I think that council person, that we need to focus on is, our downtown core. And there's a lot of things we need to do, like building improvement, filling up our vacant buildings, how we can help the community do that. For economic, we're at an economic standstill except for a small portion, in my opinion. And with our economic development, we have groups that are working towards that, but until we can find a city manager that's going to help us move forward, I think that we'll still be at a standstill for a while. Unless you want any more specific.
Okay. We'll get some other questions regarding economic development here later when the second couple. There's 3 questions actually on that. So, Susan, to repeat the question, what do you think your role would be as a city councilor in improving the economic well-being of our community?
I think my role would be to find out what the needs are of the community as far as business owners, especially how can we help them succeed? Which kind of businesses can we draw into Sweet Home to build upon the assets we already have? And in providing more opportunity for employment would be, I think, the biggest benefit of both of those options. I think it'd be good to bring in more businesses, build more businesses, as James said, fill up some of the empty buildings in town, and some improvements upon that, upon the buildings that are already there.
Okay. We'll get some follow-up questions will come in this area. Andy.
Okay, so it's actually weird hearing your own voice over the thing over here. For me, there's a couple things. One, want to be focusing on pushing for either, we used to have Brian Hopkins, an economic development director, in cooperation with Shetty. That situation is not, I don't see that as being available, but I think as a city councilman, I want to push for finding some type of partnership again to get some type of economic developer as far as director type or someone that the community, the business leaders can actually go to at least maybe a couple times a week, that we have some temporary agreement, say Small Business Development Center out of Albany, send some over here to help us out. Another thing is focusing on where our potential is. Reality is we're a better community. That changes a lot of things. We're too far away for a lot from the main thoroughfare of I-5 and the rail lines, even though we do have a spur line in here for certain things, but we do have a very strong potential for a recreation hub, an industry related to that. So I want to see if we can kind of push that leadership towards that element. I, of course, had a business in downtown Sweet Home Too Damn Bagel. We've closed down our retail side and just focusing on changing our concept from the brick and mortar and went to going orders and delivery systems. And I think I realized that certain things in our economy is changing away from certain brick and mortar type operations. I realize we want to fill in our downtown core, but we got to really think it may not be the traditional way we've thought about it in the past.
Okay. Thank you. Same question for you, sir.
Well, I have to agree with these other candidates. We really need some business in this town. You can't go out any place just about and find a job unless you go to Albany or Lebanon, So we have so much natural beauty here for tourism, more tourism than we have now. We can promote a lot more than we do. It's a sad situation though that, you know, our beautiful little city here is just sitting stagnant. And we really need to think about doing something about it. And just, you know, one person can't do it alone, but two people to start.
I have to agree with bringing in new business and filling in some of our empty vacancies. But I also think that we need to do, if we're going to bring in new business, we have to do things that can attract the new businesses to our community. I'm going to stop there.
Hi. I'd like to answer this in two parts. The first part is we know that the businesses that are 500 to 1,000 people aren't knocking on our door currently. But we have assets here. That's ample water. We have space for growth. We have a workforce. And so we just need to keep developing ourselves and keep our eye on the ball so that those businesses will take us seriously and look and want to be here. Because Sweet Home is a wonderful community, and that's why I've come to the second part of this, is that we look at the development in Lebanon, and we look around at the communities around. We look at Albany, we look at Jefferson, Brownsville, even Lebanon itself. And which one has the most to offer? Sweet Home does. We have the lakes, we have the rivers, we have the mountains, we have phenomenal diversity in recreation here. Reasons people would want to live here. And so that development might be happening in Lebanon, but we can attract secondary businesses and we can attract people to come our way so that they will use our rivers and then go home. They will use our lakes and then go home. Or decide to come here and join us and develop their smaller businesses, which can create a stable economy. So I think we need to attack it from 2 points. And it's a 2-point process. And we have plans within the city to help develop and keep going. And we need to stay focused on those goals, and we need to maximize them and invest within our community so that people will want to live here. Because Sweet Home has so much to give. We have the tenaciousness of our community, and I think that is our greatest asset in developing and attracting business.
Same question.
Well, I think that we need an economic development plan and director. This is not something that the council can do on its own. It needs some help. And we have a proposal in front of us from the Ford Foundation cohort that I think we need to look at very seriously, which is a collaborative effort. I also believe that we need to be more collaborative at the City Council. We need to meet with our school board. We need to meet with those with SHEDEC's directors. We need to collaborate more on ideas instead of everybody going in different directions.
With advice from council, I've decided to take the Fifth Amendment. I've been on the council for a while, and ever since I was on the budget committee, we have been sold a bill of goods that we cannot attract business in this community. That's a crock. It's absolutely a crock. We have failed miserably, in my opinion. I think we're working toward getting back to that so we can, we're not dying, but we cannot depend on recreation alone. And that's a big part of our city, we know that. But we're not, and to be told that we can't get somebody to come here because we're too far from I-5 is also a bunch of baloney. When the guys came in here that wanted to develop the property down by the river, that was pretty cool to me. You know, now nothing's happened with that, but we haven't given anyone a reason to come here. I think the council and the city can do something to make that happen. Whether it's giving some sort of a break on our water, I don't know what the answer to that is necessarily, but Lebanon's booming, okay? And why can't we attract some of that to here? And Albany, and I mean, everywhere you go across the state, things are being built all over. So I don't know why we're in this rut of saying we can't improve the people that want to come here. We have a beautiful community. That property down there on the river, where Knife River is now, or was, and the old mill where Tonko was, a lot of people don't know that, where that Tonko mill was, but it was there, and it was, we can do this. We can do this. We just have to work harder at it.
So a follow-up question to anybody who wants to take it. To what extent would you look at current zoning restrictions that might exist in the city with regard to the Planning Commission and other things to attract building, maybe make an advertise our enterprise zones, or see what you would be willing to do with subsidizing new businesses, whether it be water rates, whether it be some tax relief, and I know we're restricted a little bit on that area. So is there anything that you've thought of as towards economic development that are positive action that you're willing to tackle? Anybody want to take that?
I think that's as unique as the businesses that would come in. I think that as we find businesses that would want to develop here, like Mrs. Gerson mentioned, the Ford Foundation working towards development, we need to address it then. I think it'd be premature to work on those issues now because we don't know what those needs are going to be. But as we continue to make our community beautification projects more viable, and we continue to invest in our parks and in our schools, businesses will consider us more seriously as this moves forward. I honestly do believe that communities have built strong economies around recreation, and I understand the concern about that, and I agree with Mr. Trask on that. But at the same time, I visit Kenai, Alaska regularly, and they're #1 fishing capital of the world, and they have a viable business going there. And I also love to go to Maupin, and I think Sweet Home can be a destination.
So at least just to recap, you think that recreation might be an untapped resource that we could develop?
Yeah.
Would you put that as a priority rather than
Not
some other things?
over industry. Industry provides family wage jobs, but I think we can work hand in hand together. I think to develop a stable economy, you have to have various ways of stimulating it.
Okay, Andrew?
Okay, so before moving back to Sweet Home, I lived in La Grande. I served on the Urban Renewal Advisory Commission for the city of La Grande, which they had an urban renewal district. And so I got to be more in the internal workings. One of the problems that Grand ran into, because people say, well, we need industrialized, and they had a rail line and a freeway going through there, was there were certain limitations that businesses look for as far as size of property. Right now, we have some properties that may be potentially available for industrial development or distribution centers or something like that, that currently might be qualified more almost like brownfield projects. The old Willamette property, of course, is still being worked through with the county, not just talking about the Knife River, but the other part. The other thing is when we're looking at economic development, we have to take a reality check of what companies are looking for when they come to a town like this. Some people said, these larger employers, but a company needs between, I think, 10 and 20 qualified applicants for one position. That's what we're looking for, because there's so many people that we want to go through and lose to either drug screening or whatnot, especially industrial. We're really looking at, if we want to see economic growth, we're looking at under 50 people employment, companies that size. So we need to be aware that we're not going to go out there probably track a 100 or 200 employee company or a distribution center unless we're including Lebanon's population as a viable proportion or, you know, that education, you know, people with higher education levels that come from the Willamette Valley, Coast Oregon State, stuff like that. So we got to keep that in mind. It's kind of that reality check. Yes, we want economic growth. The other thing is that I think when you look at stuff, when I say recreation industry, I say not just, you know, tourism, but also if you want manufacturing, you need the research and development jobs that actually pay the wages you're looking for. Regular manufacturing, a lot of manufacturers aren't paying premium for their jobs, but the companies are doing more research and development and testing of products. That's where we kind of want to start looking for being a hotbed for the test of products, sell the products, and develop the products.
One of the things that's been suggested a little bit is someone that, beyond the city manager, and what the council can do is the reinstitution or the establishment of an economic development person. But along with that comes the expense involved in that. And so, are any of you willing to make an investment in an economic development manager that purpose would be to work with the council and the community to do that, and that would be his or her job? Anybody would like to take that question? I'll get back to you, Andrew. I want to get anybody that wants to comment on that, Diane.
I think that the process of economic development is huge. And I really believe that we need a person working that way. Whether it be, as has been proposed, a coalition, a person working with the rural cities in East Lynn County, or whether it be someone that we take on as a council. But I think we need someone to do that, to go out and hunt down those businesses that are looking to move. And I'll give you an example. I own a piece of property in Lebanon that is a rental, and we just recently leased it to a company from Washington that is an online quilting supply business. Okay? They're looking to move into Oregon, and they have moved into Oregon. Why they didn't come to Sweet Home, I don't know. Again, it isn't a large employment, but it is a business. And we need somebody to go out there and find those businesses that are looking to move. Also about the zoning, we are somewhat limited in our industrial zoning, and that does hinder us a little bit. There are companies looking to move out of Eugene because industrial property is very expensive right now, and because of marijuana grows, and we need somebody to go out there and talk to these people and bring them into our community, because we aren't that far off the I-5.
This has been brought up at our council meetings for someone that hasn't been there, but we have brought a planning commission, or planning person, and somebody for this economic development. Now, the finances will probably be a little bit of an issue, but I think we need to bite the bullet and take care of that. And you're right, Diane. We need to put somebody on there that's going to aggressively look for these things. And they're out there. She's right. They are. We just have to go after them.
Other comments on economic developments? Thanks. Susan?
I know the council has worked before to find goals and to focus on what their desires for the future of Sweet Home will look like. And I think that even before you find somebody to be the economic development individual, you need to know what you want. And we need to, as a team, know what we want to do in the future, so we know exactly who it is that we're looking for to go hunt out which businesses. But I think hiring somebody would be an investment, a worthwhile investment to actually just look into at least.
I was going to just quickly state that serving on the budget committee in the last couple of years, we have put aside, I think I want to say, double check with me on this, James and Dave, 50,000 that we have stuck aside each year. That was the amount we used to match Brian Hoffman's position. I don't look at economic development directing having an economic, not that can't speak, economic development director like we had before, it was actually between Sheddick and us, I think it was almost 100,000 with everything that was included. So we may have to look at partnerships, looking at the long-term economic viability of our financial situation.
For the good of the order, we're going to touch on some related products, but questions, but anybody else on economic development? Yeah. Okay, one of the hot issues has been the new city hall. And as you all know, the city has purchased and developing a new city hall, and the new council will be involved in that. To what extent and what focus do you believe that the council needs to have going forward? And this question goes to Susan first, and then we'll get back to
What focus we need to have on,
We need to have as we are developing the new city hall.
I think our focus needs to make sure that the remodel is cost efficient and that we are open with the finances of transparency in remodeling the business. I think that the place that they've chosen is a beautiful place and it has great potential. And I believe that we need to be on the same team and working together to help the city of Sweet Home know that that city hall will be a place of center of hope for the city and also a center where people can come and share their ideas and be involved in the development of the city.
One of the things I see with that facility, especially considering it's a much larger size than our current city hall, is that we need to make it, I think, go beyond just serving a city hall as the work being done by the city. We were just talking about economic development. I think we need to look at collaboration of resources there where we have maybe some type of a partnership with, myself suggested with, I guess, BDC, which is, you guys know, Small Business Development Center, or something along those lines, or, working with the different Ford foundations or whatnot. So they have space inside that building and times that they are providing, they can help provide staffing to help individuals who come to see with ideas. Not that they're there all the time, but that has the facilities to help, the resources to help the city help people get ideas and stuff off the ground, along with maybe even some social services collaboration with that, because we do have a lot of people need different assistance that we don't have full-time offices here in Sweet Home to serve.
Well, I might be the only one in town who thinks it was, that they bought a pig in a poke, but I personally think it's too far away from the city hub. It's not that convenient for a lot of the residents, like downtown residents, say can walk to City Hall right now, pay their water bill, go have a bagel, do whatever. They're going to be going out there on Dial-A-Ride. It's going to cost them, I think, several $1 million to fix that building up. And I just, I really don't care for that whole thing.
Lisa. You're up.
Yeah, I'm big into grants, so as far as cost, why I would be questioning as to why we aren't getting grants to help fund improvements on the new building. I also agree that I also see that it's more centrally located on Main Street. So the other individuals that are at the other end of town have equal access as ones that live at one end of town versus the other end of town. It's a center, closer to the center point. And we have a lot of walkers. We have a lot of bicycle riders. I volunteer at Gleaners, so I see the individuals. Very few of our members there have cars, and they live at that end of town. So it's just more centrally located.
I want to thank our city council because for 20 years they've been saving the money to make this happen. Our current city hall is outdated. We've outgrown it. We don't have the space we need. We're paying for an elevator, our court system, our building was, we're having to invest money into it that we're not getting back out of it. And the new building is all on one floor, it's handicap accessible, it's got more space than we currently need, so we don't have to develop that into the building yet, but it's paid for. That building's paid for. And the money's set aside already to do the improvements. So my biggest concern is making sure that that is transitioned, that infrastructure is there to support the technology that our City Hall needs, that phone systems our City Hall needs, and that that building is up and running in a timely manner so that that transition from the current City Hall to the new location is smooth. We can't afford to have glitches in the phone system or glitches in the internet, all those things that our members of our community need. We need that transition to be as smooth as possible, and I am incredibly grateful that our council members had the foresight to pick up a building that we paid much less than what that building was worth. And even if we never set foot in it as a city, we can get out of it what we invested. It is brilliant. Thank you.
Well, actually, Teresa, I think it's a big and a poke too. But we've bought it. And so we need to be very efficient in the way we develop it. We need to be sure that it meets the needs of staff. I like Andrew's idea about having perhaps other agencies in there because it is a very large building. I'm concerned about some aspects of it. I'd like to know how much water is under the building right now with all this rain that we're having. There are some issues with that building, and I think we need to be very sure that we address all those issues. I'm not concerned about where it is located. I'm just concerned about the feasibility of it being sufficient to meet our needs, not just size-wise, but just structurally.
Well, I know it was a little controversial when we made the decision to buy the building. We did a lot of research. I want to talk a little about transparency in that particular instance, is that we were kind of locked into not bringing that up so much because of spending a lot of money. I don't like that, but I'm in favor of where we put it, or where we bought it, and we didn't look at it without a lot of thought, okay? And we got bids on the remodel of the building. It's not millions of dollars, okay? Or we would have not gone there. It's not millions of dollars. I want to repeat that. We had two local contractors bid on it, and it was $1/10 or so. Now, can we run into some issues? We certainly can. The Forest Service is in there for many, many, many years. People crawled under it. There's a few wet spots, but I think that's normal in Oregon. I think it was a good process. I think it's a good buy, and we will make it work. Oh, one last thing. I'm very fiscally conservative. Okay, so had I thought this was going to cost $2 million, I would have never voted to do this ever.
With regard to and those of you who are on the city council, with regard to the improvements that are begun, do we have a general contractor, or are we going to bid it out separately by function?
I think we have to bid it. I'm not positive of that.
Do you know, Diane?
Yeah.
Have to bid it?
I think that,
Individually by segment. We can't bid it by 3 or 4 general contractors that might want to bid on doing the whole thing, and then they would sub it out. Do you know?
That's a possibility. We can have
Still looking at that, James?
Yeah. Well, you're up. You're in a great spot.
Thanks. Anybody who's talked to me outside of here knows my feeling on this, so I'll make it brief. City Hall is supposed to be the hub and the heart of our downtown community. Hands down, it doesn't matter what direction your town goes, it needs to be in the center. That said, we need a new City Hall. City Hall is crumbling down around them. Staff needs someplace to go, and I agree with the majority of the candidates up here, but to me it was a rough in the rough. It was not a diamond, and but we're gonna have to make it work. I feel the building that we have now will encompass everything and the groups and everything the staff and the city will need. Plus, it is a beautiful building with the adjacent property next to it. I think it'll be, it'll be good in the long run, but it is too far away from our downtown core. And unless we figure something out, I don't think it'll be feasible for a lot of our people who don't have cars or vehicles like that, and some of our retirees that are moving here.
Related question first goes to Andrew. Have you given any thought? It's a fact. We're moving, right? And we're moving in there. So that leaves us with the old city hall. Have you guys given any thought to the use for that building?
Start with you, Andrew. We need to keep this moving, so.
Okay, briefly, the building itself structurally, we know it's not sound. I hate to say this, but to sell it or lease it out, I think is kind of foolish, because we'd need to make those upgrades for anybody to use that facility in the long run. I think we're looking at demolition. Now, I don't know when, but I think it's going to be the outcome, and then that lot, we'll have to look at what we want to do with it then, as far as do we sell it out or do we use it for another organization or service related to the city?
Well, I was thinking that maybe it could be made into a historical site, a museum of some sort, with maybe limited hours, you know, and I'd hate to see it be torn down. It's a beautiful old building. So I think it'd be nice to be preserved in some form.
I would probably have to do research on it and see what's the best and know more about the building. But if it's in really bad shape, I would agree that it would have to be removed and then something decided as the city council to what we do with what's done with the property.
I think if somebody wants to buy it, make an offer. And then, but it's my understanding that part of that parking lot belongs to the fire department. Is that right? No? Okay. All right. That's even better for the people. Yeah, he wanted to. Okay. But if it looks like we need to demolish the building, I believe there's jail cell bars in there, and there's a safe, and there's an elevator and things that we could reclaim, resell. Then I think we need to take it down so that somebody else can come in there and put in a business. I think the downtown economy will be fine. We have a beautiful library, we have a great post office, we have our fire department down there. There are strengths and there are good businesses down there. By moving out to where we're at, I believe that part of the community will also develop. I think that this is an opportunity for change and growth, and that we're going to see within the next few years some big differences in our Midway.
Well, I don't make any decisions without having all the facts, so I don't know what to do about that building. I would have to see what an investigation of how sound it is, as to whether or not to demolish it or sell it or whatever, but I need some more information on that one.
Well, I don't know for sure how, we've basically outgrown it and it is falling apart, and we don't, it seems foolish to me to spend a lot of money in a building that's not going to be the facility that we are good with. We've outgrown it. I mean, we can't stay there. We have an annex behind that we use for the court or city council and other meetings, but we don't have room. And this building, of course, the court's moved down to the police station now, which is a good thing. We don't have the room, and the building's fallen down. We spent a bunch of money getting windows repaired and all those kinds of things, and I just don't think it's worth the cost of trying to redo it. And if we don't want to live in it, do you think somebody else would want to live in it? You know, it's just not very safe. I'm serious. So
Okay, just a quick note, remind people to keep the mic close to their, so everybody can hear. Okay, we're going to leave City Hall here for a minute. We're going to talk about another interesting subject, which is we're all affected by, and that's water rates. The city has the difficult task of managing water and sewer rates to pay for services, as well as making provision to pay for existing upkeep of the infrastructure and some needed things like that. So what would be your priority going forward with regard to water and sewer? I believe that it's Teresa's up first.
Okay, water and sewer. It's a real touchy subject right now in this town. Ours went up as everybody else did. We are passing, and from what I understand, we are passing the tests for, the usability. Our water's good now. It's good to drink. And but I understand that water and sewer has a budget. They should have been saving money all this time since they did rebuilt the treatment plant. They should have been saving money for replacing those parts that are going to wear out. And instead of hitting us, they hit us every time we turn around. We're getting hit with a new cost, and it's going to catch up with us. And we're going to be paying some huge property taxes. This town doesn't, they can't just dump it all off on the homeowners.
One of the things I see with the water rates is it's very difficult to figure out on the website a definition of a breakdown of your water rates. It's not very well defined on your bill. It doesn't define, it just says, it doesn't define exactly how much per unit you're paying. It gives you a total amount. One of the things that would be good is that for those that don't look at the water rates, something that's more explanatory of the water rates and how much you're paying per unit, and your sewage rates. I've seen bills where the sewage rates are higher than the water usage rates. I'm one of them. I get a water bill that the water's lower than our sewer rates. And that's one of the things that would be nice to know why it's that way, instead of you don't use enough water. And that's what we've gotten there. So we need to explain that better to our citizens as to why the water rates are up. And I would have to also do more research into why our rates go up.
I absolutely believe we need to keep them as low as possible. Absolutely as low as possible. Because if our neighbors can't flush their toilets, it affects us. And we have a lot of people on fixed incomes, and they simply can't afford to be investing in their water if they can't afford to eat. And so we have to take every measurement in this seriously, and any increase has to be as small and as painless as we can make it. We will never be able to make the upgrades that are necessary with the revenue that we're bringing in. So we have to take out bonds, and we're going to have to continue that process to continue the work that needs to be done. It's just the way it is, and we'll just keep moving forward. I hate the water rate issue, but it's going to be an issue as long as we're a city, and that's going to be, we're in it for the long haul.
Well, I believe the vote for this came up on my second council meeting, or first, one of the two, I don't remember exactly. The infrastructure that we have is deteriorating, and so we need to keep it working. You don't want bubbly streets and sewer pipes plugged up or broken or whatever. So those are the kinds of things we have to keep up. It's the council's responsibility to be sure that the infrastructure is working for you. I don't like the high water rates. I happen to live in a place where I'm required to keep a green lawn, and I have the most lawn of anybody else in my housing area, so you know how much my water bill is. And that does not make me happy, except that in the winter, I don't have that high water bill. So I try and plan to have a high water bill in the summer and a low power bill in the summer, and vice versa. But I do know that water rates are high, and I'll say this, and even though I hesitate, but they're not as high as other places. Let me put it that way to you. Because I pay water in Lebanon, and I can tell you that Lebanon's water bills are high.
This has been the most difficult issue I've had on the council. I did not like the last rate increase. I did not vote for the last rate increase. I thought it was too much. But I tell you, we're going to be stuck. Our water treatment plant is almost new. I mean, it's just several years old. But the wastewater plant, we're going to have to do something. And if the DEQ and the EPA and the FLCIO comes after us, we're going to pay. And I hate, we had 15 meetings or something on this water rate increase and how we got there and all those things. And you ought to come to those meetings. They're going to be intense, okay? Not council meetings. I'm talking about meetings outside of the council. It's very difficult. It's an issue that it's not going to be easy. Simply not going to be easy. I don't want to raise the rates. I'm on what I prefer to call a limited income, not anyway. So that's where I'm at. I don't like it, but we're going to pay eventually.
We're going to move off this issue, but is there anybody else that would like to make a quick comment with regard to water or sewer rates? Oh, I'm sorry. See, we
missed them early on some city halls.
seniors.
Okay. I'm going to have to follow Dave on this one because I agree with him. The meetings that we had, I believe, 2 of them. They spent a long time going over the water rates. I got to watch, and it is very intense. And to make it worse, when I came on council, there was a lot of, I heard, through the community about the increase in water rates and people not being happy. So I asked to look at it again. And I have to admit, council took it very seriously, but earlier, like they say, nothing's ever for free. So the past, there wasn't that of an increase, but, that catches up. And as Diane stated, it's our responsibility to make sure that our infrastructure is maintained. And nobody likes a high water bill. I just paid to have mine turned back on. So realistically, it affects all of us. So I don't like it, but we can't be a community, we can't have a town if we don't have an infrastructure. That's just the bottom line for me.
It sounds like a broken record because I don't think anybody wants a high water bill. And I think that the infrastructure we know that that's a job of the council to keep the infrastructure there. So our neighbor may have a hard time flushing their toilet, but we would like we wouldn't want it if everybody had a hard time flushing the toilet if we have difficulty with our sewer treatment plant. So we do need to balance the challenge that is before us to keep the rates low, but also fix the infrastructure that's there.
Something to keep in consideration. One is, like James said, and deferring investment actually catches up with you. We know that there's a time period, I want to say in the 90s, that they deferred and deferred and deferred. And by the time we started paying to make those investments, it was a massive increase to catch up with things. Things to consider, though. Yes, Oswego is not a huge town, but it covers a lot of area. That means we're sending water way across a geographical area without necessarily having the population next to it using it. I think if you look at cities of comparable size and area, we are like half the population in a town our size would have. And also remember that the budget, the process on the budget committee, it's, the city water doesn't turn a profit. And the other thing is that we can't take money from another area of the city to fund water and stuff. I had people ask me, can we take money from this or that, or, you can't. It's locked in. The rates have to balance. Everything has to balance. The only thing we can possibly do is we can't put any excess into kind of a, I want to say deferred fund, but kind of like we did with the City Hall. The terms are on the tip of my tongue, can't get it out there. But anyway, that's about the only thing we can do is to save up for a rainy day as such. But we are limited to what we can do.
Thank you. Anyone else has a quick water? Okay. Next subject. This is going to marijuana, and this is a topic that's hot right now, in so much as that Lynn County has a ballot measure, which we'll get to vote on, and Sweet Home has 3 measures with regard to marijuana. The question is, how do you stand on these issues, and why do you stand where you do? I believe it goes to Lisa's first, and then we won't forget. Thank you.
I don't really have a stance on it. It's up to how our community votes on choosing it or not. I can have it or not have it, but if we have it, I'd rather us see a tax of some sort for an income for the city as part of it.
So the question is, how are you going to vote on each of these measures?
I haven't decided. I haven't decided on how I'm going to vote on it yet.
Right. That's very important. Okay, you can pass on that. We as a group felt that.
Okay. I'm grateful that it's been deferred to the ballot. I think it is something that everybody should weigh on in Sweet Home because it does affect our members. It affects a lot of things that are come. If it comes to pass, it's going to affect a lot of community issues then. And we need to address those at that time. But I do believe anything to do with the ballot is a personal issue. And it's not okay to ask that kind of question. But I'm glad to have the opportunity to vote on it and to decide how this is going to happen. Personally, I don't smoke, I don't drink, and I don't smoke pot. But I do believe that the restriction of commercial hemp, that we could be making paper and we could be making clothing and rope and all of those things were encompassed in that originally. I don't know. There's a lot of things that come with that, and I just think that it's just there's too many things involved in it. So.
Well, I also am glad that it's going to the voters because that would not be something that I would want the city council to decide at all. My personal opinion is that I feel that medical marijuana has a place. I do not use medical marijuana, but when my husband was alive, he had a medical marijuana card, and I can say that it was very helpful for him. I don't think we should deny that to people who can not profit from it, but benefit from it for their own health. If we're gonna, from my opinion, if we're going to not have medical marijuana, then we shouldn't have opiates of any kind. But I'm glad that voters get to decide that. That's up to you as a community, how you want your community to operate.
Well, if you've been to any council meetings, you probably know exactly how I feel about this. And I agree that the 7 people on the council should not have made this decision one way or the other. I will tell you that our wonderful legislature made it across the state, they surveyed the whole state and decided, well, if anyone voted 51.25%, then the city council could make that decision on their own. Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much. And I agree, 7 people should not make this decision. I'm not against medical marijuana. I think there's a place and a time for that, but I think it's a safe way, an economy drug. If it's a prescription drug, then it should be dispersed at a pharmacy, not in a dispensary. And anyone in this room that thinks we're going to get a big windfall from this sale of marijuana, that isn't happening. That's going to go to Portland, it's going to go to Salem, it's going to go to Eugene, and Corvallis, and Medford, and Grants Pass if they choose to have dispensaries. That's where the money's going to go. Don't be deceived. Don't be deceived.
Gee, we're getting some pretty good comments on something that nobody wanted to comment on.
I agree with Dave on that. I don't believe that we're going to see any kind of a big kickback from that. As for my stance on it, I followed with the council, and I feel that it should have gone to the community for a vote, and that, I agree that's where it's going. My take on it, I don't use it, I don't care for it, but my personal opinions don't really hold much weight when it comes to a community vote, so it's more along the lines of what the community wants versus what I want, so I'm glad it's going to a vote.
I was also grateful that the council was able to get it on the ballot because I think the city of Sweet Home and the residents here need the opportunity to have a say in what their city does. So
I don't mind it going to the ballot. I will say though, one thing that I think it's already been to the ballot as long as we were in that percentage line. I know a couple cities, and I got to double check ours, that if we were in that ability to, the city council address, I believe we were. I don't consume it. I don't like it. I'd rather, ban cigarette smoking outside, by my way. That's part of me from being a runner. But at the same time, here's some, thing I look at is I don't want to potentially lose any business out of the deal. I say that, I understand Dave saying that we don't want the dispensaries having it, but one thing is the dispensary is a business in town. And so I don't have that problem. I just want to make sure that we have the ordinances in place to make sure that our population stays safe or doesn't have to deal with smelling it or having to, right now we have a smoking ordinance overall at city parks, but make sure that those are upheld. And, in my opinion, it's kind of, in some ways, treated like alcohol.
Okay, here's what I think, folks. We voted for it 2 years ago. I think it's ridiculous that it's back on the ballot. If we voted it in, it should have been in. I personally am going to vote for it again. And if you want to know when I smoked last, it was this morning with my legs hurting.
Okay. Anyone else like to make any closing comments on this subject? We've got some questions. All of these questions have to do with marijuana, and I'll read the questions, and if anybody wants to comment on what is brought up. The city is voting on recreational marijuana, and some people are interested in how you will vote as a representative of the people, and so anybody wants to disclose that, fine. If not, that's fine too. Do you think if the current restrictions on the marijuana industry stay in place, it will reduce the amount of substance that will be in the Sweet Home area? And there's really a two-part question. Or lock Sweet Home out of new businesses and potential revenue. Dave's mentioned that. You've mentioned that, James. Anybody else want to answer that question? Yeah, David.
Just one point. The state allows us to put a small tax on marijuana, and we have put that on the ballot. So if it passes that people want to have the dispensaries in town, then we can put a tax on that. it'll be very, it's 3%, I think that's what it was. And that's minimal, that's, and that's what they say we can do. I know from personal experience that I called around the state, Fairview, Oregon, for instance, as soon as it passed, they put a 45% tax on it, which is not, they won't let them do that, of course. But anyway, my biggest concern about it is that you think we're going to make a bunch of money, and it's, I can tell you where it's going to go. It's going for administrating the money, just like everything else that goes on. They'll have to have another big committee telling you that it's going to go here, 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 and here, and the money will trickle down, and it will be very limited amount when it's all said and done.
That's true about the 3% tax. However, if you pass the ordinance and allow medical marijuana, but do not allow recreational marijuana, then you do not get the 3% tax on the medical marijuana. So there is a kind of discrepancy in that.
Yeah, that's right.
Now, I realize what Dave's saying there as far as, tax revenue not being that much. The thing is that, okay, someone wants to consume it, whether it be medical or for recreation. All right, so they're going to consume it no matter what. I used to have, my shop used to be across the street from what was going to be a dispensary in Brownsville. Some of you probably heard the stories that happened there. But here's the one thing. If a person's going to consume it or wants to buy the stuff, and there's different, if I understand, there's a lot of different products, not just straight up marijuana, and different potencies and everything else. They are now doing exactly what we don't want them to do if they are limited in their selection of having to go to Corvallis, go to Eugene, go to Salem, go to where the dispensaries are. Then we are losing out on, they're going to go there and then they're going to go shopping. So there's the other side of the coin, playing devil's advocate here. Yes, I don't like the smell of it or the stuff with, it comes with a lot of times, but looking on the economic side of things, okay, I just gave my part of my population an excuse to leave town once again.
Comments? Lisa?
I probably shouldn't say this. I grew up here in the 60s and 70s. It's not going away. Okay? This issue's not going to go away. We can vote, we can say what we want, but pot is going to be in Sweet Home tomorrow and the next day. And it's just something that nationally there's a trend. And so we need to maybe encourage them to at least study it and find out what the facts are in regards to it. And they can't do it as long as it's a Schedule I drug. And so we need to look at Congress making some choices and so that we can get the facts about this, because they can't even do research on it right now. They can't even do research. And that's their responsibility to make sure that that's happening, because, like I said, it's going to be here and there's nothing we can do about it, okay, one way or the other.
Okay. Thank you for your comments. I appreciate it. I'm sure that in one way or another, all of the cards from the attendees tonight were answered. These next questions go to leadership. What do you believe that, as an individual, a council person, what do you think you need to do? Maybe we just had some answers to this question. To be an effective leader in the community and to stand for issues or stand for things related to what the community thinks and what you may think personally. Who does it go to? Yeah. This goes to leadership. Okay. As a leader, you are elected to be a city council person, and the people have elected you, and you have some obligation, of course, to represent the people that voted you in. On the other hand, you may have some individual things that you want to do in the community. How do you weigh those two things, one against the other?
think everybody gets on a council has an idea what it's going to be like, and they have issues, whether it's parks or safety or infrastructure, something that brings them to the table. As a community activist, we all have something that motivates us. And I think, though, with the council, everybody that comes to that table cares about their community. And so we have all these different voices with these different experiences, and it's how we can collaboratively come together. So if you think your voice is more important than anybody else on the council, you're maybe there for the wrong reasons. But this is a nonpartisan seat, and we're talking about wastewater, and we're talking about developing our parks, and we're talking about, trying to attract business. And so I don't think there should be a conflict, and for some there might be. But I think we're all passionate about what we do, or we wouldn't be there. And it's that conversation and hammering things out that get us down that road.
Well, I think as a leader in the community, the best thing you can do is listen. And also, you need to come prepared. That's one thing I do. I read everything. You can ask everybody. I read and bring everything with stickies in it. But it's very important that you know what the issues are. And so I think that's one of the big things on leadership, and to listen to your constituency, to your community, to be present where you can be present so that people can talk to you and know that you are going to listen. We probably all come on the council with some kind of an agenda. But for me, I just think that it's important to listen and try and represent the community as best as I can.
When I first ran for council, I'd been on the budget committee for a couple, 3 years, and I want to commend somebody at this table for doing a great job last time on our budget, and that's Diane. She really did a good job. She came to the council, she gave us what the budget committee had decided. She spelled it all out for us, and that was very helpful. The reason I ran for council is because I saw what was going on in the budget committee and in the process that we went through. I've lived here all my life too. I actually was born in Missouri. I've been here every year since after the first year. I love this community. I would never move. I've lived in, I've been in lots of states. There's nowhere like Oregon, nowhere. I do want the city to be great. I think we can be better. That's why I ran for council. Economic development was the biggest thing in my mind. I'm on the Parks Board. I'd like to see that change drastically. It's all about the money. I want to continue that. There was things that I wanted to see changed, and I was sold bill of goods all the time when I was on the budget committee, that we cannot possibly attract any business here. I totally rejected that at the time, and I still do. It's just not, it's not right. I mean, we're a recreational bedroom community. That's what we were told for years and years and years and years. And so I ran for council to try to change that direction, and hopefully we've done some of that, and we'll get better at it.
Well, kind of already forgot the question, but with everything, when you get on a committee or council, everything, you go on with, like, what's it called? Delusions of grandeur, I guess, would be a good idea. And you realize that you have to work with the people that you have around you, not only the council, but the staff and everything else. And I came on in April to fill a seat, and that was a wonderful time to come on. Everybody knew what was going on. There's a lot to go, and the community was very vocal, has been very vocal for the last 6.5 months I've been here. And one thing that I have seen that needs to be followed through with is there needs to be transparency, communication, and execution in everything that we do. And that's what I'm seeing.
I see the role of a counselor as somebody who would come in and listen to the people of the community. I've asked cashiers, what do you think Sweet Home needs? I ask people in the community because I think, as she said, we need to be listener to our constituents and represent them to the best of our abilities, because that is our role, to represent people and to lead them. And sometimes we have desires as individuals, whether other citizens or ourselves, that may or may not be to the betterment of Sweet Home, but as a committee of people, we work together to make sure we can sharpen those ideas and to move the city forward.
Well, I've served on the Parks and the Budget Committee, like a couple of people here have done. A few of us have been involved, and you get a different perspective for it. One of the things I've learned is, one, yes, is to listen, but also to kind of throw out ideas and introduce ideas. We see feedback. I look at what we're doing with our parks right now as a model. So on the Parks Board, we've started this process of we are going to throwing ideas out to the community, getting feedback, creating a plan, and then going in and basically present and stand by that plan. This is what we're going to do. We're moving forward. It's not a fast process, in all honesty. And I have people that come to me, knowing that I'm involved with different things in the city, and ask me, questions or think, hey, what if we did this or that? Sometimes, a lot of times, what I'll tell them to do is, I'll lead them to that what source they need to talk to. For instance, if they question how this, why something's not happening in the city parks, but I can still get that even though I'm not on the Parks Board anymore. I for one will follow up many times, talk to Mike Adams over there at City Hall and say, hey, got this question, get this feedback. Well, a lot of times I'll say, go out over there and ask them, because a lot of times you'll find out that the answer is not as simple as you thought it was. I'll follow up also with it. But going back to as far as just the city council in general, I think it is introduce an idea, get community feedback, and then make a plan and stand with it. And yes, at times it's not popular. And you have people on the stands that say, well, yeah.
Well, I agree with everybody. Listening, you have to listen to what the citizens of this little town want, need, and try and achieve those goals. There's just been no transparency, or very little, in recent years, and we all need to know what's going on. Just keeping things behind closed doors just doesn't work anymore. This is 2016, so. But we do have to listen very hard.
Well, when you mentioned leadership, a whole bunch of things went through my mind. The last 2 years, I've been doing a doctorate degree in organizational leadership. So my definitions, I was going through all those. But here as a council, the council members represent the community. And the community is who we have to represent. But it's not going to favor, you can't please everybody in the community. You can please some, but not all, because everybody has different ideas. And it's the majority, usually, you please mostly. As far as leadership skills, I can give you a bunch of terms. I'm not going to do that. I can say that I am one that is, as a leader, I'm a transformational leader, which I embrace change. So, I'm trying to think of this. And also as a leader, we're a role model. We're a role model for everyone. So we have to, even the kids, so we have to be representative in that. Also, the other thing that comes to my mind is on a council, we have to be team players, and we have to be able to have the philosophy is sometimes we're going to agree to disagree. And that's something that I learned in my doctorate degree. Everyone there, you're professional, you agree to disagree at times.
I've been reminded that we can't run too much longer, but there's a question here that I want to read, and I'll take anybody that wants to answer it. I've heard the word collaboration, but what can be done to work together with specifically the schools and other nonprofits, including churches? This person's looking for a specific answer. Andrew, how do you sound for him? And then I'll come to you, Don. Thank you.
First of all, there is somewhat of that already in place. It can be worked upon and to expand it, but I've served on the share. Now I just missed the, it's on the tip of my tongue situation, but basically, Steering committee. Thank you. I've seen it when it's on the tip of my tongue. I just can't get it out there. But anyway, that's where a lot of that has happened, and I think that's where it's going to need to happen. It's not something that's going to be under direction of council, but maybe has council members or city employees, we've had that in the past, serve more in that. And those actually collaborate with different entities, Chamber of Commerce and whatnot. And that's where it's going to happen. It's not going to happen with coming directly into, like, the city council's not going to have a quorum to meet with all these different groups. It's going to come that way, and that feedback's going to feed into them.
Well, I think I mentioned before, I would like the city council and the school board and Shattuck board and Chamber of Commerce to come together maybe twice a year, just to reevaluate their goals and see if they're working together. There's a lot of separate groups in this community, and they're all working at different angles. And we need to be more, it's a small community, so we need to be working together, not separately.
Short answers.
Okay. I don't know if I can do short answers. I love the long ones. Okay, so I think there's a lot of opportunity in some of these projects to maybe partner with the county, because if we can find vested interests that we have in common, then maybe we can share the burden of the cost, and we can move forward on some of those things. The other thing is we have opportunity to, like the health fair. There's a lot of room for community partners with different organizations and churches. And I'm going to plug the Zombie Zoo, because we have the great community soup event happening the 29th here. And we would love to see churches and organizations part. It's wide open, and all the proceeds, we're going to be giving them to Sunshine Center. They need a new lift vehicle. But Pat Gray is running the zombie run, and I'm looking for people to help sponsor and work on the community soup part. It's a great opportunity for our people to volunteer and shine again, because they're so good at it.
Other comments from yes, Susan.
There's great potential for collaboration in Sweet Home. I hear of other meetings that go on. I myself, we've gathered people in our church from different ministries in town to ask what we can work together on. So SHEM and other food banks, a pregnancy center, we've met together to ask about how we can meet needs in a more unified way. We have pastors' prayer times, we have pastors' wives' prayer times. We work together to actually assist one another, but also to see what we can do to help the community. And I think all of these groups can collaborate and have a streamlined focus to really help Sweet Home.
This is a kind of a two-part question, last one, and then we'll have some time for some other things. But we have the incumbents, and then we have the non-incumbents. And the question came here that for the non-incumbents, how many times during the past year have you attended various city council meetings?
Who gets
I'm the first non-incumbent in the line, and I have been to zero. I have another meeting that I am committed to that I lead on Tuesday evenings that I'm passing out the baton if I'm elected. but I read the minutes online.
Last 2 years ago, I could have said nearly every single one of them. Last year, basically, I've been focusing on the committees I've been currently serving because of, as far as the budget, and unfortunately, I had to drop out parks because of time constraints with my own business. So unfortunately, this year, I don't think I've gotten to, no, I've been to at least one because, I was going to say, James is acknowledging, yes, we were at least one of them. But I still keep in line to actually follow up with city employees or city council members here and there to find out what happened and keep in touch, but have not been able to attend as much. Business, coaching, and other things, family have taken me away from that, but as we move forward, I should be at every one of them the rest of the year.
I've been going to them off and on for 20 years, but this last year, I don't know, maybe 6 times, Jim, that sound right? I go so I can see if they go, oh my God, she's here again. But yeah, I enjoy them.
I don't know how many, because I can't remember how many I've gone to. I've also gone to a few of the committee meetings because my husband's on a couple of the committees. I don't know, Aaron, do you know how many I've been to?
75%.
He'd say about 75% of them.
I started attending them in '79 when I was in high school. I started attending school board meetings at the same time, and off and on, raising children. And I've been attending them more and more now that our children are raised, but regularly. I occasionally have a conflict, but it's regularly.
Now for the incumbents, one of the comments that sometimes we hear is that, oh, the city council doesn't show up at this or doesn't show up at that, and that we need more attendance with the city council at different events we have. So briefly for the incumbents, can you outline how involved you've been in the past year and with who, and we are short on time, so we just quick answer, Dave.
Yeah, right. Well, to be honest with you, I haven't been as good as I should have. I was on the Samaritan Health thing. I try to get to all the harvest festivals. I'm on the Parks Board, so I try to make all of those meetings. I've been a volunteer firefighter for 44 years, and to be honest with you, I spend a lot of my time toward that entity, okay, more than I probably, no, I spend a lot of time with the fire department. I do a lot of things there. We have 44 events or so we attend every year, and I'm involved in almost every one of them. I am not as good as I should be, and I'm going to get better at that. I can tell you that I've already started attending some more of that stuff. But anyway.
Well, I was on the budget committee, and also I'm on the library board. Now, I belong to the Friends of the Library. Let's see. I have been attending events in the community since I've been on the council, even though I attended just as a citizen. But I do feel it's important that we be visible because it's important for people to know they can walk up to you and speak to you. And so, yeah, I think it's important.
Well, I've been very active in our community over this year. Yeah, pretty much only this year, I have pulled away from a lot of the other functions and stuff to focus more on family. I've had a change in our family structure. So, as we move forward, as everything's getting calmed back down, I am going to get back involved in everything I was with the parks and the community and things like that. I don't know.
end of the questions that we've had, but we're going to do two things now. We're going to have a kind of an open mic. Anybody can ask any other of the candidates anything they would like to do. We want to keep it fairly short, and obviously we're going to keep it very civil. And then we're going to turn the mic over to anybody that wants to come up from the, if you haven't turned in a card, that would be fine, but if you want to say something on a direct basis to any one of the candidates, you're free to do that. Kind of an open forum here. And then at the end, Mayor Gorley has an announcement, and then we'll adjourn. Does that sound all right? All right. So, candidates, questions for anybody else that's sitting on this table? There's 8 of you, and we have how many open seats? 4. Do the math. Anybody? Diane?
I don't have a question for anyone except to say that I think it's wonderful that we have 8 candidates. I don't think that's happened in a long time.
Yes.
Kind of playing on that comment by Diane. If I, of course, James was on planning and committee before he became on the city council. Diane was on budget. If you don't make it on this, the one thing is that drives me nuts. I've served in committees for the last several years, so they go back to Sweet Home from college and whatnot, and it's a big deal to be involved in a committee or whatnot. So here's the thing: I'm going to ask each person put it above them, as far as with their fingers, showing how many committees that they are currently serving in, either a committee of the city or on, say, part of chambers, part of some other organization. This gives you an idea of the involvement level of this committee. So everybody raise their hands on how many they're serving. Like I'm going to about 3. That gives you an idea. Nonprofits, anything, you serve on a board, I'm counting being on the share steering and whatnot. So that gives you an idea. And he can't count over there.
Anybody else? Turn it back to the attendees here. Is there anything you would like to ask all of the candidates or one specific one? Here. You don't have to give your name. So this is not like a city council.
Real quick, do you believe allowing your city to have jobs that allows the ability to pay your citizens a wage to pay their bills and feed their children is also bringing money into your income, into your town?
So there's a question about a livable wage and that, so that jobs that pay well. Okay. Anybody would like to talk about that? Lisa, I know you don't.
I do believe that if we're going to hire people, we should pay them a decent wage. Absolutely. In my current, to bring jobs in? I would disagree. I would disagree. I think, yeah.
Let's get the jobs and then we can discuss it.
Yeah.
I'm confused.
Andrew, quick.
Briefly, I think the focus needs to be less of trying to bring in outside business and trying to incubate ideas and jobs in town that will actually create a larger investment, long-term investment return to the community. One thing I just saw, I keep up on trying to read economics. By the way, I almost minored in political science and economics, so yes, I can get myself in tons of trouble in conversations. But one of the things that was presented was the number of entrepreneurs per 10,000 people and trend since the 1970s. And we're under half, I believe, of what we were at in the mid-70s as far as number of business owners and entrepreneurs. If we really want to see jobs created, we actually need to start going, okay, people have these things that we say we want in our town. Okay, how do we get those built by our community members rather than trying to say who's going to come here and build the next store for us?
I'm going to answer this more direct because I know exactly where you're going. So, as I am, made it very clear, I am not for that direction, but it's not my opinion. This has been put to the voters. And when the community votes, it'll go either for or against, and if it brings in profitable businesses that pay a living wage or greatly better than a living wage, then that's great for our community, great for our citizens. So that I'll be thankful for.
I'm not sure where you're going with that question, but I'm not sure if the city council has much to say about what wages are paid. So I understand that, marijuana or anywhere else,
So you believe in kind of the free enterprise system? Oh, okay, good. Is there any other questions that have? Yes, ma'am.
No. Go to the mic. Thank you.
I am not aware, so the question I will put to any of you, chamber people too, how much money is invested in just plain old-fashioned PR in big glossy magazines that run around the state in places like Portland, and up through the Columbia Gorge and Hood River, and places, shall we say, where the money is? And if business decisions are ultimately made by individual people who say, well, maybe, you know, I've had enough of the big city, maybe I want to wind my business down a little bit, maybe Sweet Home's a place to go. If people still make business decisions based on maybe things we don't really understand, how much money is going to that? Because there's a magazine I came across in our wonderful Friends of the Library, someone who donated, and I think it's called 1859 or something. Well, apparently they just doubled to being a monthly magazine. And they did something on the highway that runs through Sweet Home. But what they took from Sweet Home in their magazine, I didn't see any advertising about Sweet Home. I saw some other communities that paid for a little bit of ad time, and it seems like they got nice reviews. But they talked about Cascadia Parks. But when they hit Sweet Home, they talked about Steelhead Fitness, and they spoke about a sign that said, "Don't tread on me," told us something else about Sweet Home, something to that effect. And they never mentioned the lakes, they never mentioned anything else about it. And my concern is that the people you want to entice to take a look at Sweet Home, they're not being reached. And I don't know, maybe it's money, and it's money we maybe don't have, or do we have that money to sometimes stick that glossy magazine in front of someone who's visiting the state, or who's traveling in a part of the state who's never come here, and maybe they need to give Sweet Home a good look. But if they never see another image of Sweet Home, other than ones here and there that get circulated, you know, once people have an image of you, it's really hard to change. You never have that chance to make that first impression again. And if we're not making that first impression, all of these things that you talk about are so wonderful, but decisions about how all of these things will be responded to are going to be made by people. And it's really, really difficult if there's a reason PR companies make so darn much money, and that everybody in the world has PR people, because it works. And so I don't understand how much money, if any, is being put in those places, or is it just too expensive?
Fortunately, this is a lead-in question to our Chamber of Commerce and the great work that we're doing with regard.
There's another issue too. You have this. You handed me this.
We did.
As far as I know, the ordinances in town prohibit us having any kind of business that has to do with a dog inside the city limits. But if you go to the coast, there's dog washing places, there's all kinds of stuff.
I think that's an urban myth that has to do with Sweet Home. I'm not aware of anything like that. Mayor, you're not?
Sure, but does not, what we have every year coming in here, the Jamboree, not bring people from other states, from other communities?
We do. obviously, and the chamber has gotten this book out, and it's clear over to the coast. We try to do statewide distribution of this book. We do this every year. It actually makes us $1 or $2.
And sir,
yes, sir.
has our community not suffered from BLM shutting down Foster Reservoir?
We're a little bit out of time, and those are good questions.
Oh, I know it's a good question. Has our community not suffered because of that?
I would guess that the overwhelming answer is yes, that we have been both benefactors and we've been sufferers of actions that were beyond our control, whether it be county or state or federal.
What can your family do to change what our government has done?
Well, I think that those questions are good ones. They should be directed to the new city council in November, and you should vote for people who believe as you do. And if you have specific questions of specific people, they're approachable, and they'd be glad to talk with you about those issues, whether they be whatever influence we may have on others to that effect. I want to thank all of you for coming, and I certainly want to add my thanks for all of you who are willing to put yourself out, and especially those who are elected. This is a tough job, right?